We have completed our in-camera meeting, and we are now enjoying the beginning of our regular meeting. We do not have a faith blessing this evening, but we do have a moment of silent reflection, and I'll ask you to join me in a moment of that. Thank you. Are there any additional items for members of council for this evening? Councillor Chamberlain.
I was just noticing the new scooter. Yes, I would like to talk about, I have to stand, sorry. I would like to talk about the June 24th meeting at the end of it.
Okay. Any other members of council? Staff?
Your Worship, I have a report on wastewater treatment plant upgrade budget.
I noticed that. To the clerks, nothing happened. I do have one issue, and that is request for our MP Larry Miller to attend the next regularly scheduled council meeting to update council and the community on the status of harbor dredging. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. Confirmation of the minutes, please, from June 23rd.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chamberlain, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on June 23rd, 2014, as printed, be adopted.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Resolution moving council and committee of the whole, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chamberlain, that the City Council now go into into Committee of the Whole to consider public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Now in Committee of the Whole, we do not have any public meetings scheduled for this evening. We do, however, have a couple of deputations, and I see our first deputy is sitting right here at the front, and I'll invite Elizabeth Zetlin to the podium, and if you would like to present us with your deputation, we're here to listen.
Your Worship and members of council, we're here as concerned grandmothers and taxpayers. We're asking that council make Owen Sound a blue community. Others are here too in support, and mostly wearing blue, you'll see. And over 100 have signed a petition. Other cities around the Great Lakes have also become blue communities, including St. Catharines, Ajax, Welland, and Niagara Falls. What's a blue community? It's one that adopts these three actions. 1, it recognizes water as a human right. 2, it promotes publicly financed, owned, and operated water and wastewater services. And 3, it bans the sale of bottled water in public facilities and municipal events. I'll speak briefly to each one, and then Susanna and Susan will also speak. First, recognizing water as a human right. Both the United Nations and the Canadian government have recognized water as a human right. For Owen Sound, this would ensure all residents have equal access to safe, clean water and sanitation, and continue to do that as you are already. It would promote water conservation and water security. Why is this important? It makes sense to align municipal policy with the UN and federal policy. Official recognition of the human right to water at the municipal level would cement these principles, and it would make Owen Sound a leader in managing water resources. Second, promoting publicly financed, owned, and operated water and wastewater services. And as we know, these services have important public health and environmental implications. And there is increasing pressure to put our water up for sale and to privatize water services. Why should we support publicly owned and operated water services? Water is a public good and should not be owned by anyone and should be the responsibility of all. Decisions about our water should be made by the public, not private corporations. As elders, we have benefited from water being in the public domain, and now we have a responsibility to continue this tradition, to provide stability and security for the future. The need to protect water is urgent, and governments at all levels must play their role. And third, banning the sale of bottled water in public facilities and municipal events. I understand that Owen Sound has already done this, and if I'm right, and that's great. But last week I went around to Harrison Park and the Farmers Market and the Bay Shore and the Y, and bottled water is being sold everywhere at all of those places. So we're respectfully asking that you actually implement the bottled water ban. Why is this important? And you know all these things. The bottled water industry sells our water for huge profits, up to 10,000 times the cost of tap water, and often that's all it is. And producing and transporting bottled water emits greenhouse gases and destroys watersheds. Billions of plastic water bottles across the globe litter the land and our waters. And you know, I read it takes 700 years for that to begin composting. So becoming a blue community raises awareness of local and global water issues. We're really fortunate to live around the Great Lakes with abundant fresh water. We think it will always be there. But we actually are losing our fresh water through irrigation, bottled water extraction, industry, agriculture, and more. And I've heard scientists even say that the Great Lakes could be bone dry in 80 years. Now, I know this seems absolutely inconceivable, but you may have heard about the Aral Sea, the 4th largest lake in the world, and it's now just at 10% of its former size. So it could happen here during the lifetime of our grandchildren. So for me, this is really personal. Last year, I went on the Saugeen First Nations water walk, and a lot of women carried water from their own neighborhood 19 kilometers to Lake Huron. And then there was a water ceremony honoring and giving thanks for the water. And I learned that in the Anishinaabe tradition, women are the keepers of the water. Water is life. And so I decided I had to do something to protect water for my grandkids and yours too, I hope. So we're asking you to do the same. And one more reason to make Owen Sound a blue community. Blue's a great color. It fits Owen Sound's logo, green and blue. It adds value to our slogan, where you want to live. We want to live where our water is protected for future generations. So thank you very much for your attention and consideration. And Susan.
Good evening, Mayor Haswell and Council. Nanibiwikwi Disnikaz. My name is Upright Woman. My spirit name, or my animal guide, is the salmon. I am a member of Chippewas of Nawash at Nishinaming. My family has lived in our territory for over 150 years. I am here because they drank the Nibi, the water. I respectfully want to speak to you about the connection people and animals have to water. A teaching. It is said that we are connected to our community by the water we drink. When we leave our communities, we lose the connection. We also lose the connection to the animals and fish that drink and live in the waters from our rivers and streams and lakes. Rainbow and salmon follow the streams they are born in. Just like the fish, we have a connection by birth. We are a society that has lost this connection because we drink bottled water from different countries and cities. Let's start making this connection again by banning bottled water in our city and having drinking stations supplied with our very own crystal clear Georgian Bay water. Let us be that forward-thinking community that brings our children home. Miigwech, all my relations.
Good evening. I am honored to be here tonight at this gathering on Ojibwe territory to speak on behalf of the water, for it is charged to the women to do so. I'm going to Winnihawi carries the words, Mohawkwe, Turtle Clan, out of Tyendinaga. Since I was a tiny girl, this place called to me. I kept coming back until I could not leave. Now I call this place home. What called to me is what calls each of us here, what calls still to tourists and folks looking for an idyllic place to retire. Indeed, our city is only here because of the water, from which it takes its name. Here we are surrounded by water, and as the water goes, so goes Owen Sound. Nani Mdwekwe, Upright Woman, and I remember that historically our peoples, our nations, have taken the long and wide view concerning community resources. We trust that you, who we choose to represent us, will also take the long and wide view on this issue, for it will leave a lasting legacy for all our grandchildren, for many generations, here and downstream. Let us be of one good mind, for we must answer to them. Now, as I approach the council to lay down tobacco as a thank you for listening to my words, my sister will play 4 honor beats for the water.
Thank you very much, and thank you for such a moving deputation. We are a blue community, but I'm hearing that the bottled water has slowly eked its way back into our facilities. So I'll turn it over to staff. If you could please instruct the facilities manager to ensure that we're in compliance with our own bylaw. And also, along with that, are vending machines that they too understand that we do have a bylaw that has been in effect for quite some time to disallow bottled water in public facilities. So we will endeavor to make sure that that doesn't sneak back in again. Thank you so much for your presentation. Councillor Purdon.
I would like to see council move forward with what this deputation has shown us and told us. We've been presented with a sample resolution, I think probably comes from St. Catharines or one of the other cities. I think we are a blue community as well. I think we could be really showing some leadership by adopting a resolution like this that is tailored to our community. I don't think we can adopt this one that's been presented, but I'd like to make a motion to send the principle of this to the Operations Committee for some deliberation to come back with a resolution that would make Owen Sound a blue community in the spirit of this resolution.
Sure. Councillor Lemon, to the motion.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that many years ago we had the Walkerton disaster where people's lives were lost, and the rest of some people's lives have been affected adversely, I understand. Water is, when I was at University of Guelph, one of the profs in economics commented, the next war will not be over land, it will be over drinking water. Because we have seen our lake levels drop. There is an organization called Stop the Drop, which is endeavoring to get action because there was some, it may be what they've done on Lake St. Clair in terms of breaking through the base of the waterway. And you're right, it is our most precious resource. But for Owen Sound, the reason we're here is because of the water, the ships sailing on the water, the fishermen, fish was exported from here to England, the salt fish at one time. And I agree, certainly with the intent. Unfortunately, where the problem is worse, I mean, we have problems here, but in many third world countries, the right to water is the right to life, and a lot of people are denied that right. And I think this is a good step. I agree with banning bottled water. I drink our own Sound water, and it hasn't killed me. Far from it. There are certain circumstances where bottled water may be necessary if you're traveling in a car, for instance, with young children. But you don't need it in every single vending machines, and putting drinking fountains out, which they used to have in public places, I think is a good move and something we should be heading towards.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, I'll speak to supporting that motion. And I was just lucky enough to be attending the Healthy Communities Conference last week in Kitchener, and they did the same thing of using, they had people bring their own containers for water and refill them, and they had lots of jugs for people to refill them. So it's a very easy thing to do, and it was a role model for how to get away from bottled water at a big conference.
Any other members of council? I know at many events now, large-scale events, they have the quench buggies, which I think are brilliant in terms of, you know, you can refill your own cup or bottle of water ongoing and not create all kinds of garbage. So I think, you know, we're getting there, but it is slow, and these are the kind of things that remind all of us to continue to be vigilant and protect our resources. So thank you. To the motion, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a second deputation, and I'll invite Mrs. Ackerman, who just received a great round of applause. Yes. and well deserved.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome.
Thank you. Mayor Haswell, members of council, and staff. My presentation this evening is regarding the promotion of our transit system for two very important reasons. First, to encourage increased usage of our buses now and in the future, and secondly, for environmental reasons. If I may explain for a minute why I am here to speak to you and ask for your support on both these issues. Because I am an advocate for a 4-route bus system, large buses, and retention of the bus terminal, and have been attending council meetings about this issue many times, I was approached by a group called the 350 Group, which now has over 800 members here, and whose main goal is the protection of the environment in all its forms. One of its major concerns is the carbon monoxide emissions from cars, etc. This group, plus other concerned community group representatives, initiated a meeting on June 28th to brainstorm ideas to promote and expand our current bus service for the future, so that more people would be encouraged to leave their cars at home and use public transit, ride their bicycles, walk, etc. As far as bus service is concerned, it is a core service, the same as our police and fire department are. Promotion, increased daily hours of operation, some Sunday service, and extension to Georgian Bluffs is an obtainable goal, which would increase usage, revenue, and benefit all our citizens, whether rich or poor, seniors, youth, or physically challenged patrons. An added dimension to this whole picture is the recent decision by Grey County to undertake a commitment to promote better accessible transportation access throughout the county. I have been in touch with them, and even though it's in its early stages, we are all aware here in Owen Sound that county people come to Owen Sound by the hundreds for medical, shopping, and recreational reasons during any given year. They will need a central transfer point for whatever vehicle the county uses to bring them here. They will need a building with washrooms, a service counter to buy their tickets, and help to find which bus to take to get to their destination. This is looking ahead, ladies and gentlemen, and having faith in the continued growth of this city and our transportation system. My request tonight is on behalf of these groups, the 350 Group, the United Way, the Peace and Justice Grey Bruce Committee, and several independent people in our community who attended that meeting. We have decided to promote July the 15th, which is a Tuesday, as a day to leave your car at home and use the buses. This is the first step in our promotion plan. We have already been in contact with several media sources who are willing to support this, and we will do the promotion. As a tie-in with our 70th year of bus service in Owen Sound, going back to November the 1st, 1944, we are asking Council tonight to approve a special bus fare of $1 for that day. This would be a major incentive for its success. Are you willing to help us by approving this request tonight? Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much for that very, very exciting proposal and for your deputation. And if I could applaud, I would right now. Councillor Lemon.
Your Worship, 70 years is an accomplishment. And I think the idea of having a special bus day, $1 a day, and we do have an advertising and promotion budget, which has not been used, from my understanding, that there's still money in it. So that could offset part of the cost of promoting it. The other thing which I would like to see is one small change to what you suggested, that you put $1 in the box and you get a pass that's good for the whole day. And the idea, because you got to go and you got to return. I think if we can get some people on the bus, and sometimes for the first time, maybe they'll use it again. So let's start thinking outside the box to promote transit. From an energy point of view, public transit works. There's less greenhouse gas emissions. If you look at Los Angeles, which is the example of a smog city in the United States, they have very, very little public transit there, and now they're desperately trying to get on board for it. We can celebrate 70 years by having $1 a day and take it back to the price it was in I don't know what year, but I'm sure at one point we did charge $1 a trip. probably knowing the way things have been plated probably about 25, 30 years ago. Maybe 40 years ago, but whatever. But I would therefore make a motion that July the 15th, which is a Tuesday, you said, be designated as bus day in the city of Owen Sound, where you can go anywhere for $1 within, obviously, the metes and bounds of the city, and you can buy a pass for that day for $1, and the cost of that come out of advertising and promotion budget, because there is no finer way to promote a bus system than by actually getting people on it.
Thank you.
So that is my motion.
Could it be leave your car at home day, and then people could take the bus or ride their bike or walk?
Yeah, leave your car at home, yes.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I just have a question. You had said something about your group would promote it. Is that right?
Yes, through media. That day, we're going to have people at the bus terminal to promote it and meet together to ride the bus. So there will be that aspect to it as well, but we would like to use the media. And I have had some encouragement that it would be available to us to do that.
Okay, thank you. I support the motion.
Yes, at noon, sorry, at noon. Noon on the 15th at the bus terminal.
Councillor McManaman, then Councillor Kern.
Thank you, Worship. And just a question for Mrs. Ackerman. Is there some, the date of July 15th, is there a particular reason why July 15th?
No?
So that's good to hear, because that leads to my next point of I'm just wondering if there's enough time to look at this, to promote this. I have a number of questions.
Oh, yes, it's already out there.
Well, I have a number of questions from the city standpoint. Do we know what I'll look to the city manager, and you probably won't know right now, what the advertising and promotion budget is for transit?
I don't have that with me this evening, Councillor.
It's just difficult to make that decision without knowing, probably no one could even give me a guess of what that would be worth.
But we would be able to do some promotion ourselves without any cost to the city.
Well, I mean, if it's $1 a day, and I don't pretend to know what that number is, but that's going to be the transit fare, that you would lose that amount of money, and I have no idea what that number is. Is it $1,000? Is it $10,000? I don't know. I'm not sure tonight anybody could answer that. But so I'm just concerned that we're moving forward without all the information, and that's why I asked if it had to be July 15th.
Well, we didn't. It is the summer. People are on holidays. It was a date that was the closest that we could get it to when we met on the 28th of June. We want to get going. We want to start this thing. The longer we wait, the less that we can do with it.
Mrs. Ackerman, thank you so much for your presentation, and it's not necessary for you to field any more questions. Your presentation is really straightforward, and I think council now will discuss amongst themselves the motion and come up with a decision. So I'll go to, sorry, Councillor McManaman, were you finished?
I'm assuming we have a transit meeting coming up July 24th. Assuming from that meeting there's going to be, I certainly hope, a number of decisions made. Rolling, yeah, I'm sure everybody actually hopes that.
I think so.
Rolling forward, I think we'd all agree there needs to be some more promotion of the system after that date, whatever the decisions are. Anyway, I'm just worried that this is might be too soon, and you might get more bang for your buck if it was delayed slightly. Those are my thoughts.
Literally more bang for your buck.
Literally more bang for your buck. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Purdon and Councillor Black.
Two things. One, thank you, Bernice Ackerman, for this presentation and for what a great idea, and for the three groups that are prepared to do promotion for the bus system in Owen Sound. I think we really need a positive with transit right now, and this to me sounds like a real positive and a gift from the community in terms of your energy doing the positive, and I think then it's up to us as council to do something positive in return. And I certainly think it would be a great bang for your buck to have a day to celebrate transit in Owen Sound, and it also might just help all of us move forward with the whole transit file. Since we're going to be having a meeting anyway, I think it's a really good way to set a context for that. The people of the community coming together to celebrate transit. So that's the one point. The other is that I wondered, Councillor Lemon, whether you would consider a friendly amendment that might cost even more money, but I think our future is children, and I would love to see a day to celebrate transit, $1 a day, and kids ride free, so under 16. So I think the future for transit in our city is to really get kids using the bus and moving around and seeing it as a really normal way to get from point A to point B. And just think of how relieved all the parents in Owen Sound would be when they know their kids could just get on a bus and go somewhere. So that would be my friendly amendment, that it would be $1 a day and kids ride under 16 run free.
Councillor Body. I have Councillor Body next, and then Councillor Lemon.
Thank you, Your Worship. I may have a better idea, which I take no credit for. I was contacted recently by a client friend who wanted to sponsor a day of bus riding for the city for free. I've had the discussion with Mr. Ritchie. There is no way it will be set up by the 15th of July, but there could be another day in September that this company would sponsor, a free day of bus riding to help promote it. I was contacted a couple weeks ago, but there's no use raising it until somebody else came up with the idea, which just happened. But I think this person will be quite willing to sponsor at least one, if not more, days of free bus riding in Owen Sound. One of his things was thinking about Election Day, but he's thinking about other days as well. And I'll have further conversations with Mr. Ritchie going forward.
Just full of surprises, aren't we? Councillor Lemon.
Well, I think the point was made that getting kids on the bus is part of going to encourage future usage of the bus. And I think that's a wonderful idea. I also think what Councillor Body has brought up is even more fantastic. But just because we do it once, I think at this point we need to do some healing with the bus system. I disagree with the councillor who says, well, we should wait till after council's made its decisions. There's been a lot of grief amongst the people who use the bus system and insecurity about whether it's going to be functional, how many routes it was going to be, where it was going to go, and I think we've now moved forward to a 4-route system, and we'll be discussing that on the 24th, I agree, but let's just see how much community support there is for the bus system. I think that is the idea, and I think the other thing is you may get people on it, and that doesn't preclude doing some other things, because the actual anniversary date, and a former councillor knows the exact date. Do you not, when the first bus ran in, John?
First date was December 1, 1944.
Well, that would be a very, very good day to do it, but I don't want to hold off on this and this idea of promoting it, particularly in the summertime when someone said the kids can ride around and go wherever they want to go, and the parents $1. I don't quite qualify for the kids rate, but I could hope. But I think I will accept that as a friendly amendment. I think we're heading in the right direction. We need to create a sense of this is our system, because there's been so much stress and strain on the system recently that I think this is appropriate.
Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. There is money in the transit reserve. There is an intention, once the decisions are made and whatever changes are approved goes into effect, that there would be a marketing plan. Doing something earlier than that, on the 15th of July, would certainly reinforce whatever marketing would be done as the changes come into effect. So I don't know exactly how much money we had intended to put into a marketing plan because we haven't developed it yet. We don't know what we were going to be marketing. But I think this is the first step, and I'm comfortable that there are the funds there in the transit reserve to be able to do this. And Mrs. Ackerman, if you and your supporters are correct, we'll probably break even because we'll have twice as many people riding the bus for half as much money, right? So we'll keep our fingers crossed anyway. Thank you.
Any other members of council have any comments? I think this is a creative idea. I think it's an idea that's fun, and I think it's an idea that will drive some enthusiasm to draw attention to transit. The council has been wrestling with this issue for far too many months, and it is out of a sincere commitment to ensure a viable public transit system, as well as be fiscally responsible. So the very real need to provide public transit, this council has identified and has supported wholeheartedly. What that looks like, that is the challenge. And the challenge is to provide a service that's creative, that's nimble, that moves people around the community when they want to move around. I was pleased to hear that part of Mrs. Ackerman's group's concerns are also environmental and involve the issues around carbon. I'm not sure how big buses fit into that, but that's a discussion for July 24th, and that's something that we certainly will be taking into consideration at that time. So I really appreciate all of the effort that so many people have put into this issue. There's a real passion and a real support by the transit users. You can't shrink your way to stardom. And that's something that in very tight financial times, municipalities are very easily swayed to do. And it's to shrink and shrink and shrink. The problem with that is you can shrink something so small that it becomes not even workable. So I think that this is an opportunity to inject a little bit of enthusiasm into the system. I think it's an opportunity to take another look and to step back. But I cannot stress on the other side of it the fiscal responsibility that we have for this community. And the decisions being made are in that regard. So I thank you for bringing this forward. We do have a motion on the floor. We'll call the question. Yes, Councillor McManaman.
Sorry, I thought we were going to hear from the director. I just asked, do we have any idea what?
The answer was no, and unless you have new information.
Through your worship to Councillor McManaman, we have about $5,000 in that budget. I'm sure we can absorb any costs that are incurred that day. It's my understanding that by far the bulk of the advertising is going to be done by the group themselves, and if they have materials that we can put on our website or on our social media, we'd be happy to assist with that.
Thank you. Social media is a powerful tool. Councillor McManaman?
Well, no, that's
the information
Councillor
you need.
Body's just given me some.
Councillor Body, you wanted to comment?
My only question is, if we're making a decision, shouldn't we know what the cost is going to be? That was my question. But if the city manager said there's a budget of $5,000 and she feels that would absorb it, if that's the answer, then that's the answer. Thank you.
Okay. To the motion, all those in favor? Opposed? Let's do that again. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We
Was carried unanimously?
yes. You can either leave the council chamber or feel free to stay for the remainder of the meeting and see the many, many, many other issues that this council deals with. Or not. Thank you very much. We now have one more deputation, and that would be me. And I will just go down to the podium and do a brief presentation. Good evening. It's quite a different perspective down here, I must say. Well, this evening we are here to celebrate and to recognize our own city manager's recent recognition. She's a little bit shocked and surprised. Ruth Corsi has received a Long Service Recognition Award from the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators, Canada. And Ruth has provided over 25 years of municipal leadership in various roles in various municipalities across Ontario. And we were very fortunate to have Ruth join us here as our city manager just a couple of short years ago. And it has been an absolute delight working with you. Look forward to many more years of working with you. And on behalf of council and staff, we want to express both our congratulations on this recognition that you have received from your peers and our ongoing appreciation of the leadership role you play in the well-being of Owen Sound residents and the management of staff. So I'll ask council to join me in congratulations to Ruth Corsi on the Long Service Recognition Award that you have received from the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators. And we have a bouquet for you.
Thank you. What a surprise. Well, all I can say is it's been an absolute honor to serve you, so I look forward to many more years with this great city. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you. We are now at public question period. Is there any member of the public here tonight who would like to ask a question of this council? Oh, I see one. Yes, thank you, member of the public. Welcome.
Yes, I seem to be the only member of the public now, but thank you. My name is Janice Curry. I'm a resident of Owen Sound. I live at 801 3rd Avenue West, and as I think you all know, I am also the chair of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. I actually want to speak to you very briefly and ask a question about enhancing accessibility of council meetings to the general public. I understand that Rogers live broadcasts council meetings and that they are also live cast through the internet. And I know that I'm one of many people that's passionately interested in my community and enhancing community life. I'm very interested in the proceedings of this council. I'm not always able to get to council meetings, but I often do watch on Rogers. And I wonder if the technology is available during public question period for people to either call in who are watching Rogers cable in the comfort of their living rooms or watching over the internet and who have a question or comment that they would like to pose to council. If the technology is actually available for them to do so, and council could then pick and choose one or two questions during each public question period that could come to you through those mediums.
Interesting question, and I do think that that would be something we'd have to hear back really from the clerk on, because what you're suggesting is sort of a running, a real-time question period.
Yes.
It's a really interesting idea, and I don't know logistically how we would be able to manage that, but I have to say it's very creative and deserves some thought. I don't have an answer for you, but it's an interesting question, and I don't know if the Municipal Act allows that sort of interaction, but I'll go to the clerk. The clerk may have a bit of information right now on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Through you, Your Worship, I can tell you that a couple of other municipalities have come across this, and it has been a discussion with no clear outcome at this point, but would be something that we could look at during our procedural bylaw review.
Yeah, and I really thank you for that, and thank you for bringing it forward. I think that it's an interesting idea. You know, technology continues to change everything we do every day, and the logistics around that are really, they present some interesting questions.
Yeah.
So I thank you for bringing it forward, and it's certainly on our radar now.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I admit
you.
technology baffles me, but it is a medium that can enhance accessibility.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, folks.
Yeah. We have some correspondence, and it's an item from the Ministry of Community Safety and Correctional Services with regards to some changes in the province's fire safety regulations. My understanding is that, well, I'm going to stop right there, actually. Ms. Corsi.
Just to advise council that we are in full compliance with these regulations currently on a move-forward basis.
That was my understanding, and I was happy to hear it confirmed. Yes. Motion to receive, yeah. Moved by Councillor Wright. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a lengthy consent agenda this evening, ranging from amended hours of the licensed area at Summerfolk through to some planning, no report, and relocation of a business daycare. Council's direction on these items. Councillor Purdon.
Move acceptance of the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on any of the items within the consent agenda? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report from the Deputy Clerk. This is with regards to a Financial Advisory Committee, a public vacancy on that committee. Councillor Boddy.
I think the recommendation is to wait until we're reappointing in 2015, and I would move that. It doesn't make sense with approximately 6 months. By the time we get somebody appointed, we're down to 4 or 5 months with election or something happening in between. So it probably makes sense just to leave it vacant until we reappoint in 2015. So I move that.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have a report from the Director of Financial Services. This is a request for proposal for crossing guard services. Continuing to provide services in a thinking, what did Councillor Lemon say? Outside of the box way of doing things. It's Council's direction on this particular report or recommendation. Councillor Lemon.
I would move. Yes, Your Worship, I would move the recommendation.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. And again, request for proposal? Oh. Okay. I said carried. Report from Director of Financial Services, a request for proposal for parking enforcement services. Again, continuing to provide a service in a different manner. Council's direction on the Councillor Twaddle.
I'll remove, sorry, I'll move the recommendation that we issue a request for proposal.
Okay. Discussion to the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Wright, that motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report from the Director of Community Services. This is with regards to an agreement with the Bluewater District School Board regarding the public use of the West Hill tennis courts. And I want to really thank staff for being proactive on this as a result of a bit of a public outcry last summer and taking this on and coming up with this particular agreement. Councillor Wright.
Thank you very much. I would move the recommendation, and I think it's a very good agreement that we have there. I just have one concern that it's the city's responsibility to maintain the inside of the courts, I guess, starting when school ends. Okay, so I don't think we've been there to do anything because it's in pretty bad shape. And so perhaps we could have that checked and looked after.
Through you, Your Worship, the maintenance, this new agreement would start in September of this year. I think you're correct. I was by in the school. The tennis court is looking a little grassy, so maybe we'll get in there. If the agreement comes forward, we can do that before.
Councillor Body?
And are there 4 nets on or just 2? Are there going to be 4 nets? I thought I drove past that they didn't all look netted, but I can't remember.
Through you, Your Worship, when I was by, I thought there was 3 nets. There may be one down to facilitate playing pickleball on one of them, but there was 3 nets, I believe.
It was interesting, Your Worship, driving past the last couple of days after all the success of Canadians at Wimbledon. Those tennis courts were full, and I hadn't seen them full like that in years, so it's kind of neat how it works.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting, Wimbledon, this year. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have minutes of boards and committees for approval. Accessibility, operations, and a wastewater treatment plant. Councillor Purdon.
Move acceptance of the minutes.
Councillor Wright.
I do have a question, and it's on the first set of minutes from the Operation Advisory Committee, and it's to do with the letter that we got from Meaford. I didn't see the letter, but, well, I think I did before it went to operations, but about the water. Are we getting more information, or was it just, we're just receiving it and we're not going to do anything further?
Go to the city manager.
I think we also have a subsequent letter because we responded to that letter. And so there'll be another report, or at least the correspondence will come back to operations again.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that because I just don't want us to not leave the door open to negotiations that could possibly take place. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Further discussion. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just this report from Mr. Ritchie on the wastewater treatment, is that coming up?
Yeah.
That's not part of these minutes? Okay.
No, I thought we would bring that on as a separate item.
Thank you very much.
Under other business. Thank you. Councillor Twaddle.
Well, Your Worship, the recommendation in the wastewater treatment minutes is the key issue before us tonight. So I think that we should pull those minutes from this and then discuss it in the context of this report, because the recommendation to issue the contract is in the wastewater treatment plant minutes, and this is, Mr. Ritchie's report is just the financial information that goes with that. It was an additional report that was requested by the committee for council's information tonight. So if we just pull the wastewater treatment plant minutes, then we can...
That's fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
That's fine?
Sorry. I would also note that in the operations committee minutes, there's a recommendation on the bus system, but I think that because we've got a meeting on the 24th, approving those minutes tonight would preempt the meeting on the 24th, so I think we should just receive that portion of those minutes.
To the mover. Okay. Thank you. We will save and accept the items that Councillor Twaddle has mentioned. Motion to approve the balance of the minutes. Or, I'm sorry, Councillor Purdon. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have minutes of in-camera meeting. Oh, thank you. Yes, we do too. Wastewater treatment plant upgrade. Councillor Twaddle.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. I would move approval of the wastewater treatment plant minutes and receipt of Mr. Ritchie's report FIN 14036, which outlines the cost. Council will recall that we had that one in I don't know how many million odds of tide tender on a ballpark $45 million project. The coin toss was held. Graham Construction won the coin toss. Staff and our consultant from J.L. Richards met to discuss changing the scope of the project because the tender was over budget. There were a number of changes in the scope of the project in order to get the entire budget closer to the $45 million. I would point out on the back of the report from Mr. Ritchie is a spreadsheet with the anticipated costs, including construction, engineering. There's a whole list of costs there that have been approved by council. There's about $3 million in costs that are in excess of the $45 million. Many of those costs are not covered by the funding agreement, the 2/3 funding agreement with the province and the federal government. And these were costs that we always understood we would have that wouldn't be paid for 2/3 by the provincial and federal government. I think this is a really significant day. As we all know, this will be the largest construction project the city's ever taken on. I think it's also really significant. I think it's great that it's coming forward tonight on the same night that we had the presentation about the Blue community, because this is another opportunity to enhance our stewardship of the water resource. The scoping changes that were made in the contract, I think it's really important, the reduction in the scope. None of the changes affect the plant's ability to treat water. And none of the changes in the scope of the project will have an effect on the quality of the effluent or that's discharged to the bay. The single biggest change was to remove from the project the construction of a second digester, a thermophilic digester. That was in there as a nice to have, not must have part of the project. If the project had come in under budget, then we would have had a second digester. But this doesn't mean, I don't believe, that we would never have a second digester. There may be other opportunities and other funding programs that will come forward. The plans are there, so there will still be an opportunity to add that. Certainly, one of the things we heard as we were discussing this in committee is that the vast majority of municipal sewage treatment systems do not have this second type of digester. We have a digester, it's called mesophilic, which as part of this project will be refurbished. The second digester would have been thermophilic, which would have further treated the sludge from the system. The vast majority of municipal wastewater treatment plants in the province do not have thermophilic. So as I say, it was nice to have. It's not off our radar. It's just not going to go ahead in this project. I'm not sure exactly, but we should begin to see activity on the site sometime within the next 3 to 4 weeks, I hope. And it's a 27-month project, which means that in the fall of 2016, we should commission the secondary treatment part of the plant. So that's a very exciting night for the city. It's a very significant milestone that we've reached, and I'm pleased to say we're here finally.
Absolutely. I'm going to go to Director of Financial Services just to give us an overview on the report and the specifics in the report. It is, as Councillor Twaddle stated, it is the largest capital project in the history of this community, and the last largest capital project was the Big Dig, and that was only around $9 million. So we're really stepping up the, and the rec center, of course, yes. So we really are doing some very, very major projects in the recent years, and this one is one that has far-reaching responsibility and support from an environmental perspective. So I'll just turn it over to you, Mr. Ritchie, if you can just review the financials and your report.
Certainly, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Just to put it in a bit of a capsule, Councillor Twaddle has certainly discussed the technical side of it. My colleague, Mr. Prentice, has helped me with these numbers. So the total cost of the project will be just over $48 million. We do have federal and provincial grant funding, which we're very appreciative of $30 million. Total eligible costs required to access that $30 million are $45 million. Our estimates at this time, our eligible costs will be $45 million, almost $600,000, so we should be over the minimum. The funding required by the city, based on the estimates we have today, will be just over $18 million. Council, very wisely over the last number of years, has built up a reserve specifically for this project, and it is just about $1.5 million. So that would leave at this time roughly $16,700,000 to be funded by the city. And we have a number of options available for that, and certainly our wastewater systems financial plan that will be coming forward later this year will detail for council exactly those options and how we will fund this project.
Thank you very much. Questions? Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. Question for Mr. Prentice. The last financial plan that's going to be updated this year, it did include a wastewater treatment plant, an amount of money for a wastewater treatment plant. Do you recall what numbers we were looking at then? And I'm sorry,
yes,
I didn't ask you this before. That's an unfair question, perhaps.
I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was accounted for in the last financial plan, yes, at that time.
If I could, Your Worship, I reviewed that plan, and they were actually very close to the numbers we're looking at tonight.
Thank you.
Councillor Lemon.
Yes, Your Worship. I thought we agreed, at least maybe I missed that we did take it out, and that was to pave the waterfront trail. And according to this, we are deleting that now, the paving of it.
No,
It's still in there?
It's still
Okay,
there.
I misread it. I apologize. Because I was concerned about the maintenance of that. Thank you.
Any further questions, discussion? Thank you very much for this report, and it is indeed a turning point for this community, and we join the ranks of all of the other municipalities around Georgian Bay that have secondary treatment very soon. So congratulations to everybody, and we'll get this project going. Oh, yes. Motion is on the floor, moved by Councillor Twaddle. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. We have minutes of the in-camera City Council meeting held on June 23rd and 25th, Operations Advisory Committee. Councillor Lemon.
Motion to receive.
Thank you. Would that be motion to approve?
Motion to approve, sorry.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Other business?
You want to do the wastewater treatment plant minutes?
Yeah, that would be a
The
good
ad
idea.
hoc committee minutes? I don't think
We
you
did
them,
that
did
as
you?
part of Councillor Twaddle's motion.
That was,
Did you do it as
Yeah.
part of your motion?
yeah, and to receive this report as part of that motion as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Purdon.
I missed correspondence along the way. I might have been a bit too hasty with the consent agenda, and there were 2 items in correspondence that I was hoping we would touch on.
Would you like to bring them forward under other business?
Yes, that was the suggestion.
Is council agreeable to that? All right, go ahead, please.
There were two pieces of correspondence, I'm just trying to get them. Oh, right, one was from, on accessibility, federal programs on accessibility, and they're looking for grants, deadline August 1st, and I was wondering whether the city's putting in any applications. There's a whole list of accessibility things. We had a conversation about it would cost $1,000 to put phones in the elevator to make them, you know, so if people are in there, but we don't have a budget for that. There's probably a list of accessibility issues, or even to get a study on what it would cost to replace that elevator that doesn't work. They're not big grants, and there's a 65-35% split. 65% is the federal funding and 35% from the municipality. I know it's a really tight deadline, but it just seemed that we were just talking about it at our last council meeting and whether there were any plans to throw a grant in, or is that just... So that was the one question?
City manager.
If I could respond, we have not had an opportunity to review that.
Okay.
Can we do it, or is it within the realm of possibility to put a grant in? I had a look at the grant proposal. It's pretty standard.
If that's council's wish, the challenge, of course, is is staff time to review and do the number crunching, and also to some degree budget, because they are matching funds, or they're at least 35%. You know, I can undertake to have a look at it, see what we can do, but it is really, really tight.
That would be my wish, that we at least consider and have a look if it's within the scope of staff possibility. I know what it's like trying to get these things in, but it just seemed like a good program, and certainly we have lots of accessibility needs.
I'd entertain a motion on that if...
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Councillor Lemon.
Well, in addition to our elevator that doesn't work all the time, the other thing is we have a number of locations where we're going to need shelters, bus shelters. As an example, the Bayshore and the McQuay-Tannery Senior Center, there's no bus shelter out there, and you're exposed to the full brunt of the winds off Georgian Bay. I'm wondering if that would be also something to be considered, because we can get a pretty easy costing on that. There are suppliers, I think we probably already have a price on them, and we know the installation costs. But that is an area where we need to spend money to make the system more accessible. And you could argue very clearly from an accessibility point of view, as an example, McQuay-Tannery Senior Center, it's, I don't know how many meters from there to the bus stop, but it's a good walk. And in the wintertime, a very cold one, or rain, very wet. And so things like that could be added to make the system more accessible, and certainly to benefit a lot of people in the community.
To the mover of the motion, is that a friendly amendment, or do you want it to be specific?
I think it's specific to accessibility. I'm not sure whether, I did read the list, I'm not sure bus shelters fit underneath that list.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so the motion...
If it did, it would be fine. I think we need to leave it to staff to figure out what they can
Sure.
do quickly,
Okay.
if at all possible, and they know best.
Sure.
Well, I'm not suggesting that we amend the motion. Just if it fits, that's something to think about, is what I was trying to put on the table.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Another item, Councillor Purdon?
The other was the correspondence for provincial from about energy plans, and we just had a presentation at our last council meeting about energy plans, and they've got money to enhance existing plans for 2014. I think there's a bit more lead time on that one, so I just wondered if Chris Hughes was aware of this, whether this is in his department. It just seems like it's also a good grant program for energy plans, and we're doing that work right now. Sure. So I would make the same motion on that one, if it's possible for staff to look into this, and if it's a good deal for the city and can be done, I would like to see that done.
I can advise council that correspondence has already been referred to Mr. Hughes for further comment.
There we go. Good. Those were your items under correspondence? Okay. Any other members of council at this time? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to just reconnect everybody to the meeting that we're having on June 24th at 4 p.m. Till 7. I think it's in this council chamber. And I just needed to ask, it's called a special council meeting for the transit?
July 24th.
Did I say June?
Yes.
I even wrote June. July 24th.
We want to hang on to this summer as long as possible.
Oh, yes. July 24th. Because it's a special council meeting, I've been asked if people, is it like any of our council meetings that a person can bring a deputation? That's a question I've had when asked. It's a special council.
This is a special council meeting for council to make decisions. I don't know that it would be really any, I don't know that could there possibly be more information?
Well, I don't know.
Could there possibly be more?
I just needed to know if.
I would say not.
No deputations.
And I'll go to the city manager on this.
I can only concur with the mayor on this. This is time for council to make a decision. You've had lots of discussion. You've had opportunities for members of the public to provide information. If they wish to write in, we will provide that information to council prior to the meeting. But clearly, you need to make a decision. We've got to get the buses ordered. We've got to get on with this system. One of the things we've clearly heard is that we've created uncertainty in the community, and it is now time to have some certainty.
So just to follow up then, I've been telling people that the public can attend, but
Absolutely.
they do not speak. They observe what council is doing at that meeting. And so I do agree that we need to get on with that, and I just wanted to clear that one question up that I've been asked. Thank you.
You know, over the course of the last 15 months, I believe there's been 17 meetings, public meetings, specific to our transit system. And I truly believe that this council has listened repeatedly, and the dates are available, and has repeatedly listened. I think it's time now for council to do what it has been elected to do, and that is to make decisions in the best interest of the community. Councillor Lemon.
Well, Your Worship, that's well and good, but part of the debate right now is focusing on two parts of it. One is the kind of buses we're going to order, or the company is going to order, which we, according to the solicitor, have the right to determine. And that sizing is very, very important for the future. And that's what I suspect some people may be interested in making sure we right-size it and not try to make miniature buses. It's like making a dachshund into a racehorse. You can't do it.
And we will have a very detailed discussion on that on July the 24th with all the information in front of us. Councillor Wright.
Yes, Your Worship, I know that the meeting starts at 4 o'clock, and I'm wondering if we can just make it from 4 to 6. Surely we can, as a council, make decisions in 2 hours regarding busing, and therefore there would be no need for us to have a meal brought in. And if we do have a meal brought in, we could go on till 9 o'clock at night and not, and it would just be repeating everything. So I'm suggesting that we start at 4 and that we not have a meal and that we make the decisions and get it done.
Well, I would support that. What's council's thought?
Do I need a motion?
Councillor
Can
Lemon.
we not just say that that's what we're going to do?
Your Worship, with all due respect, we can try, but this is a huge decision which is going to affect us for the next 8 years. And it may take less time, but I have never seen where we put a deadline on a council meeting.
So we're going to start at 4 o'clock, and we're going to proceed. And when the council meeting ends, it will end.
That's right.
And we will make decisions. And we won't plan for a meal. Thank you. Okay, I have one item, and that is very briefly, we're inviting our Member of Parliament, Larry Miller, to come to the first available council meeting that he can attend, to just bring us up to speed and bring our community up to speed in terms of his minister's outlook for the Owen Sound Harbor, specific to dredging. We are growing anxious and looking forward to our MP attending and getting an update on that. So I will leave that with staff to arrange, and we'll look forward to having Mr. Miller at our upcoming meeting. That may not be in 2 weeks' time. It will be subject to his availability. So thank you. Councillor Purdon.
Just a question that, I know dredging's top of mind, but what about the whole divestment process? Would he be able to provide any update on what is happening with divestment of Owen Sound Harbor?
Absolutely. It'd be an opportunity for council members to ask a question or questions, and he's certainly offered to attend, and I will encourage you to be prepared with your questions, and we'll be able to hopefully get some answers and a bit more direction on what is happening with our harbor. Thank you. Councillor Adair's not here.
Move the committee rise.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution adopting committee, proceedings in committee of the whole, please. Councillor Body.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chamberlain, that the action taken in committee of the whole in considering public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business be confirmed by this council.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Any notices of motion? New business by resolution. Bylaws, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chamberlain, that bylaws number 2014-118, 119, 120, 121, 122, 123, 124, and 125 be passed and enacted.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried, and we're adjourned. Thank you.